Hello, my dear children, and welcome back. I am so happy to see you all again. Today, we're going to tackle a chapter that, let me tell you, is an absolute goldmine for marks in your exams. It's chemical bonding. And you know what? It's super easy and super important. So together, we're going to make sure we understand everything and get every single one of those marks. Are you ready? Chalo, let's get started. So get your notebooks and pens ready, okay? Because I promise you, by the end of this session, you'll be the one explaining this chapter to your friends. Our target? Full marks, nothing less. So, let's start with a really fun question. Have you ever thought about this? Why do atoms just hate being single? I mean, seriously, you almost never find them alone in nature, right? Except for those super cool, very exclusive noble gases. Everyone else is always hanging out in groups making molecules, so why? What's going on? And the answer, my dear students, is this one single word: stability. That's it. That's the secret sauce for this entire chapter. Every single atom out there has one big dream: to be just like the cool kids on the block, the noble gases. Why? Because they are perfectly stable, totally chill, and unreactive. So that's the life goal for every other atom, to get that same amazing stability. Okay, so how do they get this stability? Well, they follow one simple golden rule, the Octet Rule. Think of it as their ultimate mission in life. And the rule is super simple. An atom feels happy and stable only when it has 8, that's the magic number, 8 electrons in its outermost shell. We call this the valence shell. Once they get those 8 electrons, they are set, perfectly happy, perfectly stable. Now, to get those 8 electrons, atoms can't do it alone. They need to interact with other atoms. And how do they do that? By making friends. Yep, a chemical bond is basically just atoms making friends with each other. And just like in real life, there are different kinds of friendships. Let's look at the 2 main ways they do this. So, our first type of friendship, I like to call this one the givers and the takers relationship. This is what we call an ionic bond. And this kind of bond usually happens between 2 very, very different types of atoms. So, picture this. On one side, you have a metal atom, let's say sodium. Now, sodium has this 1 extra electron in its outer shell, and it is desperate to get rid of it. It's like, please, someone take this. And on the other side, you have a nonmetal, like chlorine. And chlorine is just 1 electron short of having that perfect happy octet. Can you see where this is going? It's a match made in heaven. Now, for your exams, this is the key phrase you have to remember. An ionic bond is formed by the, listen carefully, complete transfer of an electron. It's not about sharing, okay? One atom completely gives away its electron, and the other one completely takes it. This creates a positive charge on one and a negative charge on the other, and well, you know what happens next. Opposites attract. This powerful attraction is the ionic bond. Let's take the most famous example, the story of our common table salt, NaCl. It's a classic love story. So, you have sodium, our hero, who generously gives away its 1 extra electron, and chlorine, who is just so happy to accept it. Now think about it. Since sodium lost a negative electron, it becomes a positive hero, Na+. And chlorine, because it gained a negative electron, becomes a negative ion, Cl-. And what happens when a positive hero and a negative ion meet? That's right, they get strongly attracted to each other, and bam, you have a super strong ionic bond. See? So simple. Okay, that was the givers and takers. But what happens when giving and taking just isn't an option? This brings us to our second and very common type of friendship. We call this one the covalent bond. And the motto for this bond is something you've heard 1,000 times. Sharing is caring. But what happens when both atoms need electrons? For example, what if you have 2 chlorine atoms? They're identical. Both of them are short 1 electron. It's like 2 friends who both forgot their tiffin box at home. Neither one can give lunch to the other, right? So, what's the solution? They can't give or take. Simple. They share. And that, my friends, is a covalent bond. It's a bond formed by the mutual sharing of electrons. It's like a true partnership, a real dostie. Each atom puts 1 electron into the middle, and that shared pair now belongs to both of them, so they both get to complete their octet. It's a win-win. Now, this sharing friendship can come in different flavors. If the atoms shared just 1 pair of electrons, we call that a single bond,
like between two hydrogen atoms. If they're a bit more generous and share two pairs, like two oxygen atoms do, that's a double bond. And if they're super best friends and share three whole pairs of electrons, like in a nitrogen molecule, that's a super, super strong triple bond. The simple rule is, the more pairs they share, the stronger they're toasty.
Now, of course, for your exams, you can't just write, they are friends. You need to be able to show this on paper. And for that, we have a really simple and useful tool called Lewis structures. Just think of it like drawing a little map of the friendship, showing who is sharing electrons with whom.
And don't worry, drawing these is not as difficult as it sounds. It's actually a simple 4-step recipe. Here's your exam tip. Step 1, count up all the outermost or valence electrons from all the atoms. Step 2, just draw a basic skeleton of the molecule. Step 3, connect all the atoms with single bonds first. And finally, step 4, take whatever electrons are left over and sprinkle them around to make sure everyone's octet is complete. Follow these steps and you'll get it right every time. Chalo, let's practice. Because the best way to learn is by doing, right? I want you to grab your pen and paper and try to draw the Lewis structure for a water molecule. H2O. Go on. You can pause for a moment and give it a try. Shabash! Very good! Did you get it right? Let's check. Oxygen has 6 valence electrons, right? And each of the 2 hydrogens has 1. So 6 plus 1 plus 1, that's a total of 8 electrons to work with. Oxygen sits in the middle and shares 1 electron with each hydrogen, forming 2 single bonds. It keeps the other 2 pairs of electrons all to itself. We call those lone pairs. Perfect! You did it! All right, so now we know how to draw these friendships on a flat piece of paper. But molecules exist in the real world, in 3D. So what shape do they actually have? To figure that out, we have another super simple idea called VSEPR theory. And honestly, it's just about personal space for electrons. Okay, the name VSEPR theory sounds a bit complicated, I know, but the idea is so simple. It stands for valence shell electron pair repulsion. All it means is that electron pairs, because they are all negatively charged, hate each other. They repel each other. So to be stable, they try to stay as far away from each other as possible. That's it. And here's the most important rule you need to remember for this: the golden rule of repulsion. Lone pairs are the biggest bullies, okay? They are big and they push everyone around. They take up more space and they repel much more strongly than the pairs involved in bonding. So the repulsion between 2 lone pairs is the strongest, and the repulsion between 2 bonding pairs is the weakest. This order is the secret to figuring out the final shape of any molecule. And this comparison just makes it so clear. Look at methane, CH4. It has 4 bonding pairs around the central carbon and 0 lone pairs. So everything is equal and they spread out perfectly into this beautiful tetrahedral shape. But now look at ammonia, NH3. It also has 4 electron pairs in total, but one of them is that lone pair bully. That invisible lone pair on the nitrogen pushes the other 3 bonding pairs down and squishes them closer together. And just like that, the shape changes from tetrahedral to pyramidal. It's all about that lone pair's repulsion.
Okay, bachcho, exam time is just around the corner, so let's do a super quick rapid-fire revision of everything we've learned. This is your cheat sheet for that last-minute look right before you walk into the exam hall.
Ready? Let's go. Ionic bond. This is all about the transfer of electrons. It happens between a metal and a nonmetal. Classic example? NaCl, our table salt. Got it? Good. Next, covalent bond. This one is about sharing electrons. Usually happens between 2 nonmetals. The best example? H2O, good old water. Just remember transfer versus sharing. If you remember that, you've got the most important part down. So there you have it, the whole story of why atoms make friends. It's all to follow that Octet rule and become stable, just like the noble gases. But wait, here's a little something for my curious students to think about. If the Octet rule is king and noble gases are the most stable, then why do some of them, like xenon, actually form compounds? How is that possible? Well, that's a story for another time. Keep working hard, my dear children. You are all going to do wonderfully in your exams. All the very best.